Hey, furry friends. So, if you're in the furry fandom, you all know that people are generally not always the nicest to furries. This can range from just ignorant comments to people straight up bullying us, and it all stems from people having misconceptions of who furries are and what we do. People think that we're weird or mentally ill and use it as a justification to make fun of us. I'm tired of that, so I'm Childrakina, and today I'm talking about misconceptions about the furry fandom. This one is probably the biggest misconception about the furry fandom, and it's the misconception that everything in the fandom is all NSFW. Yes, there is a decent part of the fandom that is NSFW. That said, there are plenty of furries that are strictly safe for work. I'm one of them. Not everyone in the fandom is comfortable with NSFW, not to mention that literal children are in this fandom. Just like any fandom, there are both NSFW circles and strictly SFW circles. Sometimes they overlap, but that is not the case for everyone. Since we're on the topic of the biggest misconceptions, furries are not attracted to animals. That is a zoophile, and furries hate zoophiles. We actively cancel and boycott artists who are outed to be zoophiles, and they are not welcome in furry spaces. So if you hate furries because you think we're all zoophiles, maybe do a little research. I get that I'm seeming way aggressive with this, but guys, I'm so tired of mentioning anything furry related and getting the "oh, those people that are attracted to animals" response. Like, just no. Next up, we have the idea that we all have fursuits. This just isn't true, but this idea comes from the fact that, to non-furries, fursuits are some of the weirdest parts of the fandom, so they stick out the most, and people think it represents the entire fandom. This isn't the case. Most furries don't have a fursuit. Remember, the only thing that makes you a furry is whether or not you call yourself one, not whether you have a fursuit. In actuality, fursuits are handmade, expensive pieces of art that many people just can't afford. This means that the percentage of furries who have fursuits is not going to be very high. Next up, there's the misconception that we're all white straight men. This misconception is, and pardon my French, a stupid one. Really, how can an entire fandom be all one demographic? It just can't be. The idea that all furries are straight is laughable, because most furries are queer. That's right, you heard me. Art and self-expression has long been linked with queerness, and the highly artistic furry fandom is no different. What demographic actually makes up a large part of the fandom is gay men. That said, women and non-binary people are in no way rare. In fact, most of the furries I interact with happen to be non-men. And as for all furries being white, furs of color exist. I can only speak from my experience as a black furry, but oftentimes we get shoved into a very stereotypical role, and we aren't expected to have the same hobbies as white people, which is ridiculous. People, even in the furry fandom, legitimately believe there's no black furries, or that there shouldn't be black furries. This is obviously wrong, stupid, and hurtful. Furs of color make up more of the fandom than you think. We can be furries just the same as anyone else. So, anyone feeling like maybe they don't belong in the furry fandom due to their gender, sexuality, race, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can be a furry no matter who you are. Next, we have furries think they're animals. No, we don't. What these people are probably thinking of are Therians, and that's not even an accurate description of them either. Therians are people who believe that spiritually or psychologically they're a certain animal. Therians are very much aware that physically they are people. Lots of people make fun of Therians too, but I don't see why. They're really not hurting anyone, y'all. There's no point in being mean. Let people live. In a similar vein, there's that stereotype that we all bark or growl or make animal noises. I don't really know where to begin with this. Yeah, there's a stereotype of young furries barking and growling at people in school. I'm not here to judge those who do. Maybe it's a form of self-expression, and my philosophy is to not judge people who aren't hurting anyone. However, most of us furries, Don't do that. A lot of us realize that that's not really something you do in casual conversation, and being a furry doesn't automatically change the way you interact with people. Not to mention, usually those who do bark at people are younger furries still figuring out what is and isn't acceptable in public. Overall, the percentage of us who make animal noises in public is extremely low. The last misconception I want to talk about is the misconception I see a lot that we're all just a bunch of middle schoolers running around with ears on. The fandom has an age range bigger than you think. The furry fandom started back in the 80s. There's no way all of us are kids. There's definitely hundreds of thousands of young furs out there, but there are also hundreds of thousands of grown furs too. Most furries that I come across are young adults. So if you're an adult furry who's out there feeling alone, you're not. Furry comes in all shapes, ages, and sizes. What you should take away from this video is that the furry fandom is a huge and diverse community. It's literally impossible for any of these misconceptions to define every single one of us. Anyone can be a furry. Again, all that matters when it comes to being a furry is if you want to call yourself one. And if you don't, that's fine too. Furry is up to you and your own experience. Thank you all for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more furry content from me. And stay furry, friends.